What if the easiest visceral fat diet worked by changing signals, not just shrinking portions? Most people chase smaller meals and harder rules. That usually backfires fast. But visceral fat listens to biology before it listens to math. And that is why two people can lose the same weight while changing very different risks. Because in a moment, I will show you the food pattern that targets the fat around organs. And the strangest part is this: some people improve deeply, even when the scale barely moves. Visceral fat is not the soft padding you can pinch under the skin. It sits deeper, inside the abdomen. That is the problem. It surrounds organs and behaves like an endocrine organ, sending inflammatory stress signals constantly. Those signals can worsen insulin resistance, disrupt appetite control, and quietly raise long-term disease risk. It is active fat, not silent storage. And that is why belly size alone does not tell the whole story. You can look smaller on the outside while still carrying the kind of fat that keeps metabolism trapped. So, what kind of eating pattern actually changes that deeper environment instead of just chasing weight loss? The answer is simpler than people expect, but one common habit can block the whole effect. The diet at the center of this conversation is an optimized Mediterranean style approach, not trendy, not extreme, and not punishment. It keeps the core Mediterranean pattern, then pushes harder on specific polyphenol rich foods. That means more berries, more greens, more nuts, more legumes, and more green tea. These foods do more than fill space, they change the chemical conversation. Think of your gut like a crowded control room that helps direct inflammation, hunger, and fuel use. When the right compounds keep showing up, the room starts making better decisions. And one of those decisions affects where your body prefers to store fat. That matters a lot. Because visceral fat responds differently than the fat under your skin. In research comparing healthy eating patterns, Mediterranean-style diets consistently perform well for cardiometabolic health. But when the diet is enriched with more polyphenol-dense foods, deeper fat loss looks stronger. That matters more than many people realize, because body weight and dangerous fat are not identical outcomes. Some people lose pounds without changing much visceral fat, while others improve that deeper fat faster. That is the real lesson. Food quality shapes physiology, not just calorie totals. Polyphenols appear to influence gut bacteria, inflammation, oxidative stress, and metabolic signaling in useful ways. And those changes may help explain why the deepest fat sometimes responds before dramatic weight loss appears. But science becomes useful only when it reaches a real plate, a real kitchen, and real cravings. So let us make this practical, because the easiest diet is the one you can repeat. Before adding miracle foods, remove the daily signals that keep visceral fat comfortable. Alcohol is one of them. So are hyper-processed foods. When alcohol shows up often, the body gives it metabolic priority, while appetite and restraint both get weaker. When ultra-processed foods dominate meals, they often bring refined starch, added sugar, emulsifiers, and weak satiety. That combination is trouble. It makes overeating easier, and it can disturb the gut environment that this diet is trying to improve. You do not need perfect purity, but you do need friction. If every evening includes drinks, dessert, and packaged snacks, the body keeps hearing the wrong message. Now, here is where the plan becomes easier than expected, because this is not only about removing things, it is really about what you add back first. Start with protein, because it gives the whole day more structure and stability. Protein helps preserve lean mass. That changes everything. During fat loss, muscle acts like expensive tissue your body should want to keep. A strong protein intake supports fullness, steadier energy, and a better chance of protecting metabolism. Think fish, Greek yogurt, eggs, chicken, tofu, cottage cheese, or strained yogurt if tolerated. Simple choices work best. You do not need gourmet meals. You need reliable anchors. When meals begin with enough protein, later cravings often arrive quieter and with less urgency. Now add the foods that make this diet uniquely powerful for visceral fat reduction. Dark berries matter here. Green tea matters too. Leafy greens matter. These foods are rich in polyphenols that help support the gut, reduce oxidative burden, and improve meal quality. Berries can replace dessert, green tea can replace sugary drinks, and greens can make meals larger without excess energy. That is the beauty. The plan lowers friction. It gives your appetite something useful to work with, instead of asking willpower to fight alone. There is another reason this feels easier than restrictive diets built on constant subtraction. Mediterranean-style eating has texture, variety, color, and enough pleasure to stay sustainable. That matters enormously. People repeat what feels human. A plan built from fish, soups, yogurt, fruit, vegetables, beans, herbs, and olive oil feels like living, not diet theater. And when a diet feels normal enough to continue through busy weeks, stressful days, and social meals, results become much more believable long term. Chia seeds, beans, herbs, fermented foods, and extra virgin olive oil can strengthen the same pattern. But there is still one invisible lever that decides whether even good foods feel easier or harder. It is not discipline, it is timing. Visceral fat tends to grow in chaotic internal environments, and eating rhythm helps create order. Random eating teaches random hunger. That is the trap. A simple meal schedule can calm appetite and reduce the constant mental noise around food. Try finishing your final meal several hours before sleep whenever possible. Then eat a protein-rich first meal within a reasonable window after waking. That simple rhythm helps. It creates predictability, and predictable hunger often feels much easier to manage than cravings that strike all day. You are not forcing starvation, you are teaching rhythm. When the body expects food at steadier times, it often stops begging for it everywhere else. Diet does the heavy lifting, but movement makes the message louder and clearer. Walking helps after meals. Strength training matters too. Brief, intense efforts can help. These do not need to become exhausting. They just need consistency. Walking improves glucose handling. Lifting helps preserve muscle, and both support a body that becomes harder to overfeed. This is not punishment-based exercise. It is signal amplification. The food says, store less. Movement says, use more. Together, they create a more believable instruction than either one sends alone. The hardest part for many people is not the diet itself, but the patience it requires. Visceral fat rarely disappears in 10 dramatic days. That is fantasy marketing. Give this pattern roughly 90 days of honest consistency, and the internal picture can change meaningfully. Not overnight, but steadily. That is how real biology often works. The body does not reward panic. It rewards repetition. Small substitutions repeated for weeks can reshape appetite, improve gut signaling, and gradually reduce dangerous fat. That is why this approach feels easier. It works with your systems instead of trying to bully them. So if you want the world's easiest diet for removing visceral fat, think quality first. Build meals around protein. Use berries, greens, legumes, olive oil, and green tea as repeatable daily tools. Reduce alcohol and hyper-processed foods enough for your gut and metabolism to breathe again. Then, keep the rhythm. That is the strategy. Less noise, better signals. And over time, the belly often starts reflecting the deeper changes happening underneath. Stay with the next video because meal order quietly changes fat storage more than most people think. This content is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Some parts of this script were supported by advanced artificial intelligence tools to structure and refine information. But every core idea here is grounded in real metabolic science, because clarity matters more than hype, and your body deserves the truth.